We think we saw really how the injury problems in defence are impacting Manchester City at the moment. Certainly with that team selection at the weekend, when you consider that 19-year-old Jamai Simpson-Pusey, 21-year-old Josh Wilson-Esbrand, with a backup to a back line of Walker, Diaz, Guardiola and Rico Lewis there. So today at training, I think it probably raised further questions as to exactly what Guardiola will have available, not just for Juventus in Turin tomorrow night, but certainly ahead of the Manchester derby as well, because again, we can go through the list of absentees in that back line. And John Stones, he's not featured since he came off at half-time in the Carabao Cup defeat to Spurs. And again, he wasn't training today. Neither was Akanji. He was replaced at half-time against Forest. But Guardiola said he was going to be assessed ahead of the game against Crystal Palace. He didn't make that, obviously. And again, not part of the group training today. Nathan Ake last played in the 3-0 victory over Nottingham Forest, and just coming off a minute or so before full time, of course, with a thigh injury. And again, his injury problems look to be continuing because he wasn't part of the group today. The situation is compounded, obviously, with the fact that the central midfielders, Rodri out for the season, we already know, but Kovacic still not back training. Of course, he hasn't played since coming back from international duty injured, so that's 5 games that he's missed now as well. On top of that, we're just wondering exactly what the decision is going to be over the goalkeeping situation at the moment. Ortega's been in since that 3-3 draw against Feyenoord, Feyenoord coming back from 3 goals down. Of course, Ederson losing his place after that game, and Ortega playing in the defeat to Liverpool, the win over Forest, and the draw at Palace as well. Obviously, we know that Rico Lewis can play against Juventus, but then again, he's suspended for the Manchester derby at the weekend after that red card against Crystal Palace. There is some good news for Pep Guardiola today, because we saw Phil Foden out at training. He's missed the last couple with a bout of bronchitis as well, but he took part in training, as I say, and we would expect him to feature in Turin tomorrow night. But still, those defensive problems are hampering Pep Guardiola.
And Vinny, in terms of that run of form, 1 win in 9 for City, I mean, it's pretty much uncharted territory. What could another poor result mean for their ambitions in Europe?
Well, certainly, yeah, obviously the first and foremost, the focus will be that tie against Juventus as well. Juventus actually a couple of places below Manchester City in the Champions League standings at the moment, albeit level on points. So it's a big game for both, really, as they're looking to push not just into the unseeded positions for the knockout phase, but to try and make up ground on those seeded positions as well. Looking at City's next 10 games or so, it's a tough schedule that they're facing as well. 6 of the next 10 are away from home. That takes them up to the home game with Chelsea. All of that, I should say, before the home game with Chelsea. And we can include PSG in that run as well, away from home once again. And PSG down in 25th in the Champions League standings at the moment. So there is the opportunity, really, for City to rescue the situation, certainly in Europe as well. But, of course, at the weekend, it is the Manchester derby, as we know. United not in great form themselves, but you mentioned City's form at the moment. Second from bottom of the recent form table at the moment. Only Southampton worse, with a worse record. City, as you said, Joe, just 1 win in 9 in all competitions. That was since the 1-0 victory over Southampton as well. A defeat against Spurs started a run of 5 consecutive defeats in all competitions. It's 6 defeats, 2 draws and just 1 win in those 9 games that I mentioned. And in the Premier League, of course, they've lost 4, drawn 1 and won 1 in their last 6. And that's why, obviously, they've fallen off the pace in the title race. 8 points behind Liverpool now, who have played a game less. So with the Manchester derby to come at the weekend, as well as this tie against Juventus, potentially it's a pivotal week, both home and abroad, for Manchester City's season.